Anne Spencer here, and welcome to Sit Back and Chat. If you don't know already, a place where we cover various topics with a bit of simple science thrown in, and it's got to be simplified for me, to help sustain good mental health. And if you want a jump start, I recommend starting with get the hell out of bed as early as possible. Good starter for 10, guys. All right, this episode, Simple Science says, put your hands on your head. No. Just kidding, couldn't resist. It's about attitude for resilience. Finding the resilience, self-belief and self-care, all of that for strength. It's important and not a selfish thing to do. These are difficult times, absolutely. Everyone treats it differently, of course, but with the pandemic, within lockdown, in and out of lockdown, who knows when we might be locked down again, and with the talk of a third wave, our minds can be all over the place. But even out with that, our situations, our personal situations in life, we have to have self-care. All of that for strength is very important. Self-belief and self-care. You may have heard the expression that self-care is not being self-indulgent, it's preservation. Self-care is essential for everyone, and especially those experiencing stress and adversity. Those people, if you're a caregiver, a manager, a parent, anyone on whom others depend for support, direction, security, all of those things, you will need to have the right attitude for resilience. You will need to be resilient, which is why self-care is so important. If you look at self-care as an intentional action to nourish your physical, emotional and mental well-being, if it's self-indulgence, that's really just fulfilling or satisfying a present moment, and that there are no long-lasting benefits from that. That's the difference. And it's so easy to forget that we all have what's called our higher needs, It's like the ultimate values, our unconscious feelings, all those mystical experiences that we might have, ecstasy, bliss, all of those things are important. One thing I do remember very vividly is I lost my own dad to depression. I watched his decline. He suffered from clinical depression. He was taken physically to a psychiatric hospital, and we as a family never had realised just how much he was going through, his private suffering, until it was too late. He didn't recognise who we were. And I remember my mum calling me into the room, panicked. She said, "Anne, it's your dad." He was literally rocking back and forth. I'd never seen that before. The mind is a delicate thing, and we need to care. We need to have self-compassion. Looking back, dissecting events, we could see what the triggers were, but it was too late. He was broken. When I think of my dad, a wonderful man, a good man, kind, clever, I could list a whole load of superlatives to describe him. In reflection, yes, I did see him burden his own worries while helping others. It was his nature. He ran a business, a hotel. It can be tough. He got on with things. It was his nature never to complain, but it led to his mental decline. My dad gave his care away, but he never cared enough for himself. And I know now the severity of what happens when we're not sharing and understanding the importance of self-care to aid our resilience. We got my dad back, but it was a long road, arduous, because they used ECT, which is electric currents they put through your brain. Traumatic for him to go through. And a good few years of convalescence. But we got him back, and he was good. But I think it definitely had lasting effects for him. So relating this story, giving you an idea of really why I'm very passionate about mental health and the importance of taking care of yourself and being aware of yourself. Even if you're just aware of your own breath at times, I so wish that I could have related this to my dad long before he fell ill. It's all those higher needs that I talk about. Just even like the cosmic awareness, our cosmic play, our individual species and our synergy. We really don't play too much importance on that. That's why the arts, theatre, music is massive for our human condition. And we're seeing that now without it. Being aware of what we are. And we should. If a man from a previous civilization, an ancient Greek or a Roman, suddenly appeared, he would soon notice that though we are quite impressive, aren't we, as a species, we've got a degree of power, technology, and all that jazz, our actual knowledge and control over our inner being is very limited in terms of our mental states and caring for our mental states. I don't think the Greeks would be all that impressed. What does that tell you about us? I think meditation, to be aware of our unconscious, I think it's a good thing. It's only about learning a few techniques and exercises, all various practical training of how we feel. It's having the will for its optimum use at all levels of our existence, which is probably why, with the expansion of our modern technology and our reactions to various complications and what have you, that it's not surprising that a lot of us, are returning to nature to feel the benefits. In other words, to simplify our life has become much more desirable and necessary, which brings much more clarity, obviously. I mean, when you really think about it, it's really quite amazing, isn't it? That we, us humans, we're inventors, originators of all decisions and judgments and creators of everything. Space travel and planners of the future, no less. But we see ourselves as what's known as a quantité négligeable. Sorry about that, just showing off a little bit of French. But what that actually means, we think we are a negligible quantity. In other words, we don't think much of ourselves. It's not worth evaluating. That's not good, guys. Not good, because we are awesome. We are awesome. So we need to look after ourselves. And there's lots of different ways, one of which just stop and get outside. Walk outside immediately. More and more now you hear about caring for plants and animals. It's becoming aware of nature. The benefits of nature are massive. And it's getting into the habit of taking that time out to see that and feel that. That's what self-care is all about. That's part of something that you can do. Obviously, mindfulness, which is what a lot of my episodes are about, really. I mean, that is a therapeutic technique that involves being just aware of the present moment. And this can mean both outside and inside, in your feelings and your thoughts, in other words. Practicing mindfulness can help you become more aware of your own moods and reactions so you can understand yourself better. You know, you're being mindful of you. Self-awareness is very limited, really. And you may already do that. You may already know what helps you to relax if you're aware of what does relax you, like maybe having a bath or listening to music or taking the dog for the walk, which is one of the things that I do, and listen to music. And if you know that a certain activity helps you feel more relaxed, then make sure you set aside the time to do that. You know, that is so important. Be aware. A lot of people have discussed with me ecotherapy, to get sunlight into your skin and into your mind. And I mean, living in Scotland, we don't get a lot of it, and there is a lack of vitamin D. And even in terms of the pandemic or the virus itself, building up your vitamin D levels and all levels of vitamins that you need in nutrition makes a big difference. And that's why the virus isn't so strong in the summertime, because we do have sunlight. But apart from that, it does shine light. The sun is good for depression. Of course, regular exercise. Need I say that? You know, obviously we know that. And it doesn't have to be strenuous or sporty or anything like that. But to start with, you could just try gentle exercise. I mean, I'm not particularly strenuous in what I do, but I walk a lot, and it gets me, I'm covering two aspects, walking and being outside with nature. And hopefully, if it's sunny, or even if it isn't, it's a bit of oxygen, you know. And yoga. Yoga is gentle. It's just what you can do. It's personal to you. And that's why I love that. And of course, there's swimming as well. But the important thing is to pick something that you enjoy doing. So you're more likely to stick with it and more likely to just go, well, that's what I want to do now. And if you're physically disabled in some way, you know, there's various disabled rights, I think, that provides information about exercises you might be able to do. You know, or ask your doctor about these things as well. I would say avoid drugs. Alcohol, not too much of it. I like the odd glass of red wine. Who doesn't? Or maybe some people don't. But while you might want to use some of it, you've just got to be very careful of just how much you take, because it can act as a depressant. And when you're experiencing a mental health problem, if you do, it's easy for any personal care to not feel like a priority. That's just the very paradoxical thing, isn't it? You feel that it's not a priority, and you could be so intense with that belief. That's when it's really difficult, because you have no sense of self, which is what we're trying to do. And what you eat when you eat can make a big difference to how you feel, really big. Not touched on the issue of media, Give yourself a break from media. Avoid overexposure to the media. There's a lot of bad news out there to the pandemic. Sometimes it's just all repetitive. It's a strain on our mentality. And especially if it is making you feel ineffective or anxious, and you're unable to control any of your life because you just keep thinking of these things. So any media-worthy events can be presented in an exaggerated or a false way as well, just to attract attention. And so remember that and unplug. That's all I'm saying. Unplug. Yeah, stand back, take a deep breath, unplug. It's quite simple, really. And if you do, that will avoid catastrophic thinking. I mean, just listen to that. Catastrophic thinking. And it's your thoughts. It's so dangerous, that. Try to see your situation as temporary if it's upsetting you. No matter how difficult, life does ebb and flow in ways that are impossible to predict. We can't always control that. You can think about what you want to do in the future and focus on that and have that purpose towards something. But other things will come into the view and interrupt you, But this, you can view or help gain a different perspective and maintain that momentum if you work through your current circumstances during difficult times of uncertainty, like it is now. And we often try to fill in those blanks. We always say, but what if this happens? Oh my God, what? Your imagination, imagine the worst case scenario. I hear some people saying that. Imagine the worst case scenario if, yeah, all right, I'll do that. I'm really upset now. No, I'm not having it. So while it's good to be prepared, and it is obviously, that goes without saying, it's rare that the worst case scenarios come true, right? It only happens when you're watching a really bad horror movie and you're like, oh my God, I knew that was going to happen. That's horrific. Don't do it to your life is all I'm saying. Don't do it to your life. Don't do it to your life. I'm taking control of your life. There's another thing, and I was reading Reframe from a Difficult Experience. Reframing, really, I think they use that now. It means changing the way you think or the way you talk to yourself about stressful events. We all have that inner voice, don't we? They call it the little inner monkey, saying things to us. We're talking to ourselves. Sometimes we talk back. Don't worry, you're not going mad. But instead of saying, I will never get through this, I can't do it, I can't go on, Samuel Beckett, you go on. You might try a more positive and realistic approach, a different thought, like, I will get through this. I'll get through this by using techniques that have helped me when I've had difficult experiences in the past. How calm and nice that is, that inner thought. If you could just have your inner self saying that, you can have your inner self saying that. Yes, I can do this. I'll ask others for help and find strength in my community. I know it sounds all sort of a little bit blasé and sort of snowflakeish, but it's a fact and it works. We have family, we have friends. And that, no matter how small, is the importance of going through certain things with others. Family, friends, co-workers, they can all be a lasting source of emotional support. I've met most of my friends through work and had long relationships and still do. Friends that you meet through work, it's as well as reality checks. We can get the problem is, because of lockdown and we're not going to work and we're maybe not communicating with people on a day-to-day basis at work. That is a problem because we don't have these regular reality checks with other people, listening to what's going on in their life that's similar to yours, or their concerns and their worries are similar to yours. You know, day to day when you're working, this can happen, but when you're confined to the house, yes, it actually consumes you that you might be the only one feeling this. And even when these circumstances seem to go beyond your control, connecting with others, or similarly, can help form an important bond. Ideas on ways to manage, take the action you need to, or cope, may arise from those bonds that you make. So doing this will make you feel less alone. That goes without saying again, but we always need reminded. I'm reminding myself here, actually. So make time for the closest relationships as well. You know, we all have them. Those strong ties, you know, that really are important. That is taking care of yourself. And it helps to keep your mind and your body primed to deal with situations that require your resilience. Resilience is the ability to adapt well in the face of adversity, such as when we may be experiencing personal or family issues, as we all do, a serious health concern, you know, work stress, money worries, all those things. It's the ability to bounce back from those challenges. One of the key ways to build that resilience is to focus on that self-care and all those things that I've said prior. It's important to you. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to your family and your friends. You owe it to living a good life. That's about it. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying in this episode, but obviously I've got a lot more to say in the next episode. But if there's any questions, please, drop me a line, ask anything. Hopefully I'll be getting somebody else on to interact and say, no, that's not quite what you do. I don't think so, because most of the time I'm saying things that are logical, aren't I, darling? Anyway, thanks for listening. Join me again the next time. Don't forget, subscribe and follow. I always forget that myself.